So why do we, aside from the fact that the Torah says you have to put on tefillin, what's one explanation for why we put on tefillin? It reminds us of Yetziat Mitzrayim. All right, so that's one answer. I'm going to, for the, because we're kind of rushed with time, offer another answer without hearing all the multiple answers. Another one is that, which I think is very powerful, is that we have a reminder on our head and on our arms, which is like next to our heart, of what the right thing to do in life is. Now, he adds in this book, this is Peninei Halacha, he adds the part like that you're tying them also, which I think is powerful. Like you're subordinating your head and your heart to Hashem and to the values that are written within the tefillin. That's the first question. Second question is as follows. Are you allowed from the Torah to put tefillin on at night? What do you think? Yes or no? You could just call out. Okay, we got like 6 no's and 1 yes. Now 2 yeses. Okay, you are actually allowed to put on tefillin at night. We don't do it. Why? So you just say you shouldn't do it because you might fall asleep with them on and then pass gas, and then that would be disrespectful to the tefillin. So that's why we don't put them on at night, actually. But actually, you can put them on at night. The reason why we don't wear tzitzit at night is because there's a verse that says you have to see your tzitzit, but you don't see them at night customarily. So now that we have electricity, maybe you do, but in those times you don't. So really, you can't put them on at night, but we don't. All right, let's say you only have one tefillin. You only have one tefillah, not tefillin. One for the hand. You only have the hand or the head. Can you put that on, or do you have to wait to get both? What do you think? Can you put on one tefillah? Yes or no? What do you think? Yes. And do you get the mitzvah? So you get a mitzvah. Each one's a separate mitzvah. Okay, that's why according to Ashkenazic halacha, you make a bracha, a blessing on the hand and the head. According to Sephardic halacha, you make one over the hand and the head, but it's still 2 components of the mitzvah. So if you only have one, obviously it's better to have 2. Okay, if you only have one, your hand or your head, you should still put that on and make the appropriate blessing. All right. Let's say you didn't put it on during davening in the morning. Okay, you slept over somewhere, and you didn't bring your tefillin. You didn't expect to sleep there. You got back to the neighborhood later in the day. You're not going to be able to put it on during Shema. The time's already over, or actually it's throughout the day. But the early Shema is over. So now, can you put on your tefillin later on? Yes or no? Yeah. So you should. It's a mitzvah all day. Okay, it's a mitzvah all day. It's better to put it on in the morning when you say Shema, because the Shema talks about putting on tefillin, so you want to put it on when you're speaking about tefillin. But you can you should put it on all day. If you miss the morning, you should put it on all the way until it gets dark, until sunset. And if you didn't do it even then, you could do it between sunset and when the stars come out, because you can do it in that time as well. Now, why don't we wear them all day? Some people do. Right? Some people will wear their tefillin all day. The Talmud, some important rabbis wear them all day. But we don't, because we're afraid that people are going to forget that they're wearing tefillin. They get overly engrossed in maybe forbidden thoughts or secular thoughts and remove their intention from their tefillin. But somebody who's very holy and pious and can remember that tefillin's always on them and they stay in the proper mindset, they can wear them for extended periods of time. And you see, there's certain places in Jerusalem where certain yeshivas, like in the old city, where they wear tefillin all day long. All right. Now, what if one? Here's a question. 2 more questions. What if one right? So we get to put on your opposite hand, right? If you're righty, you should put on your left hand. If you're lefty, you should put on your right hand. Now, how do you define what's a righty or lefty? What does it go by? What do you think? Thoughts on that? Here are your options. What? So your options. Let's say you either your writing or your actions. Like let's say you write with your left hand, or you do all your actions with your left hand. If you do both, for sure you should put it on your right hand. If you do all your actions and you write with your left hand, for sure you should put it on your right hand. What if let's say you just write with your left hand? Would that count to define someone as a lefty and require them to put on the right hand? What do you think? Yes? No? What? You got both of the options. So it seems like there's a little debate around this, but there's a verse that says you should uchshartem uchtavtem. You should bind and you should write, and there's a connection between them. So it seems like we would go by the writing. Well, there's a little bit of debate around this. Sephardim for sure go by that. But there's a little debate around that. Last question is this, and I'll just ask the question and I'll answer it. The difference between the head, and I think this is like a really nice message connected to this. So the difference between the head and the hand tefillin, they both have the same thing written in them. But basically it's the four parts of the Torah where it talks about tefillin. In the head tefillin, though, if you pay attention, there's like boxes, separate boxes. There's four separate parshas, scrolls that go into the head tefillin, with the four different parts where it's written about tefillin in the Torah. In the hand tefillin, it's one scroll goes inside, and it's all four of them written on the one scroll. So the question is why? What's the distinction between the head and the hand? Like what's the symbolism behind that? He has a really nice explanation here, which I actually really love. Being somebody who studied Jewish philosophy, but on the other hand is pretty halachically oriented. So he says, when it comes to thoughts, you can entertain a lot of thoughts. You have one parsha, two parsha, you have one scroll, two scroll through. Judaism has a lot of room for multiple thoughts and approaches. When it comes to action, though, you can't apply all the different actions. You have to have one unified action in halacha. So for the head tefillin, you have multiple scrolls. For the hand tefillin, you have one scroll with all four of them written on it because you have unified action as opposed to being open to have different thoughts as well. So I thought it was like a beautiful idea. So all of them are really to connect us to Hashem by having close to our head and our heart. All right. On the topic of tefillin, we gave the conceptual part last time. I just want to talk about where exactly you put the tefillin on halachically. So I'm doing it to teach. So I'm not going to make a bracha over it. But so I want to talk about exactly where to put it on your arm and on your head. The verse says, "Al lochem, so you should put it on your heart. On your hand and on your head." So the first thing is al yadchem. It should be al. It should be on. So they learn from there. It should be like on the highest part of your hand. So you would say it'd be on the shoulder, but that's not really on your hand. So it's the muscle. If you have muscles, it's my left arm. Okay, that's not mine. All right. So you put it on the muscle. It should be so always above the elbow. So I do this here so you can see. But not higher than halfway up the muscle. Okay, so you can see that great muscle. So you put it not further than halfway up. Now, when you tighten it, you're going to want it to also tilt a little bit to the heart because it says on your heart also in relation to it. So it's in the middle and down from the muscle between that and your elbow. And almost all Peninei Halacha, others say it should be on the halfway down part. And then you tighten it up. And like I wrote little thoughts on each one of these. When it comes to the hand, the idea is that I think it's like a nice idea. So we have two pieces here: the hand, the muscle, and the heart. So your heart should be internally directed to God, and that should play itself out through the muscles, through your body, in your actions. So that's the idea. And then you'll tighten it, and you make the bracha, etc. I'm not going to go on how to do all the straps. In terms of the head tefillin, it's very important to remember that your head tefillin, there's two places that are very critical for where and that's why you have to have it as the proper length has to be in tune with your head, with the size of your head. So if you just go to shul and you get a pair of tefillin and they don't fit very well, you should get the person there to help you really tighten it properly. The top of the head should be beginning, the bottom of it should be beginning at your hairline. Some of you might say, Rabbi, I used to have a hairline. Well, where you used to have a hairline, okay? Seriously, that's actually what they say. So it should be at your hairline. So if my hair goes all the way down. So I would have to figure out where exactly the hairline. It shouldn't be lower than that. It's like an important law. It's learned out from some other laws in the Torah which talk about like there's certain laws. You shouldn't go lower than that place where the hair comes out. So that's on that side. Now, also, it should be between your eyes. So it shouldn't be between your eyes. Again, it goes up, right? But it should be spaced in between your eyes. Now, some people you'll see, I do this too. People are checking to see it's properly aligned between your eyes. What's most important is that it's like sometimes people do like this. It's somewhere in between your eyes. It shouldn't be to the right or to the left. There's some symbolism behind that as well. Last piece, so you have the eyes, you have the hairline, and the back, there's a place where where your bone kind of meets the back of your head there, it should be on top of that. So like sometimes you're at a shul, it's better to have a smaller fitted tefillin than a larger fitted tefillin. Why? Let's say it's small. So it's moving a little bit further back. That's not bad. It can't go too far back, but it can't go too far up. Okay, so it's just good to really pay attention to that. And the thought behind that could be that you have to have between your eyes and on your head, where your head starts, your thoughts should be properly directed, and also your eyes, how you view the world, should be expressions of that thought. So it should be between your eyes. In terms of one more thing is in terms of the order. So the verse says you should put on your hand, and then on your and then otofop in between your eyes. That's why you put on the hand one, put on the head one, and then when we take them off, we do the same order. So you unwrap your hand first, then you take off your head, then you continue unwrapping, the opposite order. And so that's a little bit on the tefillin. And in general, you're not supposed to have a distraction between your hand and your head tefillin. They're separate brachas, but you're not really supposed to talk or have any distractions in between them. And perhaps an idea behind that's an overall idea of all the tefillin. Tefillin connect your hands, your actions, your muscle, your heart, and your head. So those are all supposed to be interconnected and not separate from each other. So there's some basic halachas to remember when it comes to tefillin. Some of them are pretty critical. Like if you're wearing tefillin, sometimes I come into the high school classes and they're in davening and like guys are wearing tefillin like this or like that, they're like not doing anything according to Jewish law. So you have to be really careful to have it in the proper place, especially if it doesn't like go further down on the forehead. All right.